Fans of the brand will know that Triumph has never built a proper large capacity superbike to take on the performance elite. I mean, they've been kind of busy with other stuff. However, fans of Triumphs might now be interested to know that they still haven't, but they built something very close. And here it is, the new Triumph Speed Triple 1200 RR. Some of you might recognize the name Speed Triple. Yeah, it's the very famous naked motorcycle, the Super Naked, except that this is, well, it's not naked, very obviously. It's got this sort of fairing, but not a full fairing all the way to the bottom. So it's not a super bike either. So it's sort of a not quite super naked, not quite super bike thing. Apart from the fairing and a more racy seating position, it's pretty much the same as its naked kin. It weighs a decent enough 199 kilograms with petrol and oil, and it has the same 1160cc triple motor, pushing the same 177 horsepower and 125 newton meters of torque. However, whatever its designation or purpose, one thing is for sure, it is truly gorgeous. Triumph have been building some good looking motorcycles, but this one encapsulates a new synergy of retro, complementing modern, presented in a timeless paradigm of, yeah, that's all good and well. But I don't know if you've noticed, we've got a motorbike and we've got a big abandoned freeway behind us. Come on, let's use that then. Well, on that note, I guess there's just one thing for it. Oh, listen to that triple rev. Over to the red line. Fourth gear. Fifth gear. Oh! Cool. Yeah. 177 horses might not be like class leading, but it's enough for a stamping, let me tell you that much. Maybe I should do that again. Before anyone could complain, we bravely ran away and headed into the hills to find out just exactly where this bike sits. And we start with where the rider sits. The bars are slightly lower and further forward than the upright Speed Triple, while the pegs are slightly higher and further back. It's definitely different from the Speed Triple. Speed Triple's kind of up here somewhere. This one I can feel I'm in more of like a racer position. It's not 100% comfortable, but then again it's not that bad either. I do feel a lot more racier though, like racy, like yeah. And it's really natural position. When you're hitting some of the twisties like this, you just feel like you're kind of in the right place, getting in the right motions. You don't feel like I have to grip anywhere or I'm struggling to hold on, which is excellent. Eagle-eyed viewers may have also noticed that the Öhlins suspension is semi-active. That means that the rider can get their 15-year-old kids to set it up to their liking, with no spanners or screwdrivers or hammers needed, but everything is done through the dash, with different setups in each of the 3 rider modes. It's kind of amazing when you flip over in a sport mode, not only do you feel the throttle get more kind of reactive, but also the whole suspension kind of firms up. It's like the whole bike kind of crouches into a pounce position. It's metaphorical fur standing up, ready to attack. It's really cool. And then, you know, put it back in road mode and you're more comfortable, more neutral. While it might have been fun going flat out on an abandoned freeway, it's here, on the public road in the twisties, that the motor really starts shining. This motor still doesn't have the ponies of some of the other superbikes. I bet the difference is that it's so kind of easy to use. It's not overwhelming. There's plenty there to frighten you, but also not scaring you all the time. It's like I can still use this. And then there's that triple soundtrack. It's got this deep throaty triple sound. And every time I change down again and open the throttle, I think I'm in like some 1970s action movie. Ah! Oh, it's good fun. Of course, nothing is ever perfect. If there are any problems, I would have, it's got a more of a racy seating position. I would have had the handlebars just slightly further back. It's like I'm a little bit too much over the bars and my neck is kind of having to crane a little bit too much. So I would have just a little bit more of an upright sitting position. Apart from that, I'm perfectly happy. This thing is a lot of fun. And the cost of all this fun is 315,000 Rand. That's a fair bit of money, if you think money cannot buy happiness. Here's the trick with bikes like this. I mean, people judge motorcycles purely only on their performance. It's basically, you look at a spec sheet, and that's how you judge the bike. But there's so much more to it, a lot more. There's so many more components to a motorcycle. It starts in the morning when you walk out of your house into your driveway and you see it parked there in your driveway. And you see this, the way it looks right now, parked in your driveway. Your day is already better. From then on then, it doesn't matter how it rides. I mean, immediately you're really happy with the way it goes. What matters less. And then you get on and it's this whole experience. With the soundtrack, the look of it all, the feel of it all, neutrality, everything like that. It's all about experience. And Triumph's been learning that, I think, more than anyone else now. It's about experience, and Triumph gives you experience, and this bike gives you that experience. That kind of racer, but not, not quite racer, but still racer. It's just sort of a beautiful place to be. I'm a fan. Change down and race car sounds.
Yeah, got to admit to being more than a bit jealous of Don with this one. I'm very keen to get a ride and have been since I saw it at the EICMA show. I've heard some rumblings and mumblings and grumblings about the way it looks from some quarters, but I think it's a cracker. What exactly do we have here? As Don was explaining it, it isn't quite a superbike, but I don't think it's meant to be. In fact, I reckon Triumph has done something that's very clever and nearly impossible these days by carving themselves a bit of a new niche, and it has resulted in a superb new bike. That niche would of course be a modern version of a cafe racer, so it's not really a new type of bike, is it? It's what, a sort of a reinvention. Doesn't matter really. The original bikes we think of as cafe racers were in fact the maddest, baddest, fastest sport bikes of their time. This cafe racer reincarnated isn't that, but make no mistake, it's still sporting, still cutting edge in many respects, and undoubtedly a more comfortable, better looking option than most of the superbikes of the moment. And if we consider what might be the new Speed Triple Double R's competitors, then we can look at, well, we can look at not a lot actually. You could conceivably talk about Honda's CB1000R, something they actually call a Neo Sports Cafe. It has a modern interpretation of the cafe racer design, sort of, because there's actually no fairing with that one. Good bike though, and just shy of 150 horsepower if I remember correctly, and a half-decent suite of electronics. A lot more affordable than the Triumph 2, obviously. As is the Katana from Suzuki. Once again, it's a modern take on a classic design rather than being just a kind of retro pastiche of the original. And it's more naked than Cafe Racer again, but a good engine, also knocking out something in the 140 odd horsepower range with a funky modern style, heavily influenced by a Suzuki from the past, but it still is a modern style. Could you say the same of Yamaha's XSR? Yeah, more a genuine retro, I think, like Kawasaki's RS models. Obviously, there are many retro style bikes, but let's not go down that road since it has been done to death by just about every manufacturer, none more so than Triumph as it happens. Off the top of my head, the only other genuine contender you might suggest is MV Agusta's Super Veloce, with its own distinctive modern take on the retro sport bike theme, but that's a more committed riding position and it's an 800. The Triumph is cheaper, more powerful and easier to ride fast. How do I know this? Well, I asked my colleague who happens to have ridden them both and had this to say on the matter when I gave him a quick FaceTime call.
Hello mate, yeah, the only bike similar to the 1200 RR is in fact the Super Veloce from MV Agusta. That's because they're both a futuristic interpretation of a retro design, which who thought that up? What were they taking to think that up? They're similar in that they both got that same design. I wouldn't exactly call them competition on the grounds that the MV Agusta is an 800, the Triumph is a 1200, so a bit different. How they're fundamentally different is the MV Agusta is a full-on superbike. It's basically an F3 800 with a very pretty coat on, whereas the Triumph is sort of, yeah, as I said in the piece, not quite naked bike, not quite touring, sort of in between, like a super bike with a little bit of kind of sit upright. So yeah, but both very gorgeous motorcycles.
You would be happy though, wouldn't you, with either bike in your garage? Both of these companies, it seems, are on something of a roll, both producing desirable new models, both venturing into segments of the market they haven't previously competed in, and both reporting significant sales and revenue growth. Triumph's role has obviously been going on for much longer and they're a much bigger company. And just as MV Agusta has announced its impending entry into the adventure bike wars, Triumph has taken the even more adventurous and brave step of attempting to become a major player in the world of off-road bikes with a soon-to-be-released range of MX and Enduro models. Genuinely exciting times then for fans of both brands, and after the break we have news of the Italian part of that duo and what they're up to here in South Africa.